top of the morning to you, and welcome to Spartalknewztalk, your plucky working class source for the news you need and that takes you trust, because it's just us two lads doing everything once a week. Making us look and feel greener, we have my Celtic co-host, Haakim Walker.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning. It was a nice old St. Patrick's Day. Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers. We will get to that in a moment. But I want to get all the news of the day out of the way. It's Wednesday today, March 17th, and today in the news. 8 people were killed in a shooting at 3 Atlanta businesses yesterday, which were all Asian-run massages and spas. One massage place and then 2 spas. 6 of the 8 victims were Asian women. The suspect, 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long, is in custody and is charged with 8 counts of murder and homicide with 1 count of aggravated assault. His motives are so far unclear, but the shooting reflects the growing number of pandemic-related anti-Asian hate incidents. A new NASA study suggests that there might be oceans of water under Mars, hidden underneath its crust. Did you hear this, Haakim?
I haven't. Oh.
It's exciting. As a NASA nerd, I love stuff like this.
Gold Rush,
Well, yeah, and who knows? Like maybe there are people living under there too. Whatever.
Ocean people.
Water
world.
Well, it's like if there's that much water, who knows? There's currently a 20-year high surge in migrants arriving at the U.S. southern border with Mexico, with most are turned away in a pandemic order. Unaccompanied minors under 18 are being kept in government-run detention centers that critics say are inhumane. The $1.9 trillion stimulus package has been signed, no surprise there, and stimulus checks should be going out starting this week. And Joe Biden sat down with George Stephanopoulos the other day, where he said that Andrew Cuomo should resign if allegations against him are confirmed. But I'm pretty sure there are a lot of allegations that are confirmed. My favorite actually is that a longtime Cuomo advisor, Larry Schwartz, who he has named as the vaccine czar, has been calling county executives for vaccine distribution purposes, but also apparently to gauge their loyalty to Cuomo in the sexual impropriety investigation around against him. And I'm sure that they're in no way related. I mean, he's just, he's just saving the call. He doesn't want to call twice,
Unfortunately, sounds very Trump-esque.
Oh, very, yes. And like you said, very, very New York shakedown.
What's the correlation there? No.
And also it's St. Patrick's Day today, which usually is celebrated this last weekend in Corktown, very near to here, but also usually today because it's the actual day. So for our service industry friends, or for any of you who are missing out on the festivities, you can celebrate at home with us. Because we figured we'd construct a drink in honor of your sacrifices in this last awful year, and also for a famous Irish revolutionary. Let's take a look at that now.
Okay, here we go, guys. Spar cocktails. So St. Patrick's Day today. So we're gonna do something easy but fun. So this is going to be a variation of a Thom Collins cocktail. There we go. Always put in nice large ice cubes. So what are we making, you ask? We are making a Michael Collins. So Michael Collins was an Irish revolutionary leader. He was assassinated in 1922. So this cocktail is going to be a play on Thom Collins, but in fitting response to the Irish heritage that we're living today, we're going to do the Michael Collins as a tribute. Okay, so we're going to be doing Tullamore Dew, one of my favorite Irish whiskeys. I'm going to start there. We're going to do 2 ounces of that. little syrup, give a little taste. Give an ounce of that. And we're gonna go with some fresh lime juice. We do half for each. So I'm using half a lime today. If you're using fresh lime juice, pre-made lime juice, you can use like a half an ounce. Top that off. Just a little water. And this is a little take that I like. We're going to be using some mint bitters. This is fun. It's going to look very good. I'm going to do 4 just for St. Patrick's Day. And we're going to garnish a little lime and lemon. And here we go. And that's a Michael Collins. Back to you, Jack.
Well, I'm not sure which side your Black Irish family is from, Haakim, but here's to Irish liberation.
Cheers.
Yes.
I'm the other Black Irish, so you know.
Oh, you Northern Black Irish?
Yeah.
You Northern Black
Actually, you know, my
Irish
grandmother she is half Irish.
Well,
So I'm like eighth.
here's also hoping that your family, doesn't encounter Liam Neeson in a bad way, you know. All right, our guest today is a veteran panelist and friend to the show. Appeared on season 1 episodes of Satanism and the Occult, What is Fascism, and our season 1 finale. He is an anti-fascist activist, student of history, and the founder of the satanic organization Satanhaus. Our returning champion, Thom Elliot. How you doing, Thom?
Just fine, Jack. Hail Satan. Nice to be back.
Yes. How's your apocalypse been?
Oh, very complicated. My life couldn't be more different, actually, than the last time we spoke.
Oh, well, I'm glad to see you in one piece, at least.
Certainly, but it's been close. I'm not sure if I know your co-host here, though.
Oh, yes, of course.
How you doing, Tom? I think actually we might have met once. Yeah, bartending. I was bartending.
Yes, he also bartends at Mudgee. So, we talked about this on a previous show that Thom was a regular there, and I was his bartender, and that's how we started talking, about these subjects and potential topics, and he's a good resource to the show. Actually even since you in fact introduced us. Yeah, sorry, this is Haakim.
That's a very long wait. Yes, how you doing?
Well,
Haakim.
I didn't know if you said your name. That's the thing. Yeah. So Haakim, Thom, Haakim.
Pleasure, sir.
But yes, like I said, Thom was a great resource. You actually recommended our first guest for our news leg, Carson Stangala. We both really liked a lot. How did you meet him? Are you guys just friends, or does he help you with realty and finance as well, or?
No, not even close.
Okay.
Carson is a good friend of mine. I know through just a circle of friends from the Farmington area. And he's sort of, I'm not sure if I should say this exactly, but he's sort of part of my fellowship for my organization. And so,
for Satanhaus.
Very deceptive. You would never think that a guy like that would, be in true tantric Buddhism and mystical Satanism, but here we are.
Here we are, the button-down Satanist. I like it. I mean, yeah. I think there was a figure like that in SLC Punk, but
good reference there.
Yes, good reference there. So you were in our fascism episode with another friend of yours, or a frenemy, we would call him, Edwin Oslin, who has also helped me find potential panelists, Trump supporters, etc., who might be on future episode, and he actually himself might be in a future episode on anti-Semitism, himself being a Jew and somewhat of a racist. So it'd be an interesting take, I would think. But other potential panelists have expressed their reservations for such an alt-right, racist sort of dude, racist light dude, whatever. To which I responded that 75 million people did vote for Donald Trump. And I think the Republican Party currently, such as it is, has more or less come towards someone like Edwin. And but we've talked to him about we've talked about platforming him before in our finale episode. So my question is talking with him about anti-Semitism a good idea or the worst idea ever?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's both the best and the worst. Being a self-hating, self-loathing Jew who's afraid of Jews and their control over the world, I think his insight into that would be interesting. Certainly, I would take no political ideology tips from such a person, but in the same way that
push back, I'm sure he would push back on being a self-hating Jew, but he definitely has some bad, problematic ideas about Middle Eastern people and Arabs and such.
He can push back all he wants.
Africans, no, it'd be interesting to have you guys talk again, but yeah, sorry, continue. How do you think he would do in that?
Well, in the same way that I've been studying the absolute fringe of the far right in both my academic career and in just my personal obsessional neuroses, following them and studying them, learning exactly what they think about themselves, I think is true. I mean, that's the only way to really understand them. Theory can take you quite far and historical analysis and whatever, but source text, especially with things like white supremacy, the alt-right, conspiracy theory worldview, these things you have to read what they themselves in their own environments where they can let their hair down and feel comfortable. That's really where, that's the prime material. That's what you want in order to understand, I think, the dynamics at play. So someone like Edwin would be great resource, not because he's got a desirable position or someone to listen to in that way, but because he is ensconced in the most twisted version of rightism, the contemporary alt-right. So yeah, I would certainly find him interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only problem ultimately is getting the other panelists that explaining them which I don't think he himself has been the main challenge in that. It's just people are weird and cagey these days. But at the end of the episode of what is fascism, you said that you didn't think Donald Trump himself was a fascist, but that he was being used by fascist elements in his cabinet, like Steve Bannon, Seb Gorka. I'm sure Stephen Miller would be on that list now. But out of those, Miller was the only one that really stuck around the whole time. And just seeing how everything played out with Trump's following, with COVID, with January 6th, given all of this, you have a new assessment on Trump's fascistic bona fides?
No, I think if anything, my sort of comments were borne out. I think Trump is the ultimate cipher. I think the people who rally behind him, he's only himself, I believe, dimly aware of the depth of the depravity and cognitive dissonance, or whatever you want to call it, that make up a huge portion of his followers. Trump, he pretends to be some kind of white working class champion or whatever. But as his history shows, Trump would step on the open mouth of his most ardent supporter to cross the street to molest a 15-year-old model. And, he truly is from a different world that his supporters don't understand. And he is as disconnected as it was a picture of Hillary Clinton, but it was so funny. It reminded me of the same dynamic. Did you ever see that picture of Hillary Clinton going into an ordinary working class American's apartment, and just her look of aw, like
No.
kudos to Hillary Clinton. Certainly, Donald Trump would never be setting foot in the homes of any of the people that, his most crazed.
Yeah, Viking QAnon dude, for instance.
Yeah,
I can't
Trump's
imagine
not
that
gonna.
guy's got much more than a hovel. But
That guy's.
he's eating organic during it, so we know that much.
Um, yeah,
But
he's not going to be at Mar-a-Lago anytime soon. The guy with the
right.
shaman. Yeah.
So let's talk. So you feel like do you feel like a true, if you were a true fascist, you would have actually seized power on January 6th, or do you think that that was always going to turn out the way it did?
Well, I think that if Trump truly was a fascist in the sense of like a classical fascist, he would have commanded them openly to commit violent crimes, but he really doesn't need to. And then my sneaking suspicion is that Trump himself is fully aware that he lost and lost, as fairly as possible in the U.S. system.
Yeah, I think he knows too.
That he's part of that was putting on a show for the people. But I mean, if we're talking, so there's two different ways we could address that. Is Trump, well, he's totally guilty of what the impeachment people said. The impeachment trial was an absolute slam dunk. The only reason that he wasn't convicted was partisan hack. But if you want to talk about the actual January 6th, that's kind of ridiculous. National Lampoon's Capitol Putsch would never be successful ever. No government could ever be taken over that way. And it was so funny on the 6th watching it. And it was horrifying, especially watching of course I'm a junkie. And so I watched literally every second of the recent impeachment trial. I even forced the boys at the factory I work at to fucking listen to it.
That is very masochistic of you. Wow.
Yes. But for me, I'm in hog heaven. I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the
I'm
best.
media junkie too, but I did not stick in there.
All of it. I watched literally all of that. Yeah. No, he's absolutely guilty of fomenting a murderous riot. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But that's part of the showmanship. Trump already is guilty of murder, certainly as president, but killing a few more people, including a police officer or two. I mean, what does that guy actually care? He's from a completely gilded, illusory world. And so, he doesn't actually give a shit. It's all to enhance his personal brand, which he's going to parlay into a media company. There's just no way around it.
Yeah. So when do you think that's coming? Is there? I don't know if I've stayed up with any news on that, but is he making moves already?
I'm not that I know of. What's funny is how quiet Trump is. He did his speech at CPAC, which was rambling and continued to promote the quote big lie, which I like that they called it the big lie, because it is. And Trump himself knows it's the case.
Do you know the dynamics with March 9th when it comes to QAnon? So my understanding is that that because they changed the inauguration date from I think January 20th or something like that, from March 9th.
Trump is actually the 19th president.
Yes.
And that there's no legitimate U.S. presidents after Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, it's wild.
And Trump is going to restore the republic from the corporation that America became after Ulysses S. Grant. I'm not sure exactly. But of course, when that March 4th deadline came and went, because of the insulation strategies that are essential. I think it was it March 4th, and then they just pushed it back to.
I wrote down 9th, but I was like prepping a lot of stuff, so I might have written down the wrong one. So it might have been 4th.
They just pushed the goalpost back. The insulation strategies that make up their worldview, it's so far from reality that it really doesn't make a difference. That's the least outlandish thing about the conspiracies related to Trump post-presidency that I've been following. The craziest that I read is that Trump is either still president or he's the president of the republic, whereas Biden is the president of the corporation, and that there was for a moment, as a stand-in for the storm that didn't occur, that Trump is part of why they built those walls around the White House was that Trump was carrying out in his last weeks in office or something like that, executions right on the White House lawn.
Right.
That was Trump was getting rid of Satanists and communists and his various enemies, and so that was that Trump actually was doing public executions, but that Trump is still president. That's super common. You find that a lot in the so-called prophetic community, who has been some just absolute Schadenfreude joy for me watching tens of these ridiculous prophets either sort of doubling down or going further down the rabbit hole, right? So like Trump is either still president of the republic and he has the army on his back, and he controls the army still, and that's in a misunderstanding of impeachment. They're like, well, only a sitting president can be impeached, so that means Trump is still president. They use the impeachment trial itself as proof that Trump was still president, which makes no sense. And in the impeachment trial, they outlined several people who either got out of office or attempted to quit office to avoid prosecution by the Senate, in a direct anticipation of that argument. And so it was funny to see that they used the impeachment itself as a sort of proof that Trump is still president. But
wild. It's almost like, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to ask, well, how do you feel about all these new up and coming like platforms? Since, well, I guess, what's your opinion on the deplatforming for some of the more bad actors, and how do you feel about all the newer ones that are accepting? I know like was a Clubhouse, and there's one other one, right? I didn't think of that's newer, but they're the ones kind of house goes
like a media thing.
Extreme what?
It's a new what?
All the new platforms that are like like that are taking the place of all the existing ones, like the ones that are
like Parler.
Yeah, Parler.
Yeah, well, not even Parler. There's a newer one. I know Clubhouse is one. There's another one too. But anyway, like, how do you feel about their impact in these communities?
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and quote Charles Manson, and to say that every prohibition creates an underground. Certainly, as a out Satanist and somebody who relies on my freedom of speech and religion to exist, super important to me. And so in some ways, I am a sort of free speech absolutist, and I demand my right for speech to represent my, infernal chosen religion and that sort of thing, but also to be a, subversive leftist as well. I think deplatforming it's not going to work. You can't cancel a person out of existence, and there are so many, even killing them, you can't get rid of them. So I think that they will it's just a game of whack-a-mole. I don't think that's the approach that will deplatforming via media companies is certainly a good way to, quiet people like Donald Trump or whatever. But they pop up. They're going to pop up elsewhere with less control and more ability to spread their nefarious, insulated worldview amongst themselves. I think that, we're not in a position as a society, really, to grapple with the dissemination of white supremacist ideology. We're just not in a position to actually do what it takes to staunch that. And I'm afraid that dissemination of white supremacist ideology should be treated like old-timey laws of like sending pornography over state lines, or like in Germany, where it's literally illegal to spread white supremacist propaganda. I don't know of a better way. You can't lock them out. You can't round these people up in America as it stands today, because it would be egregious violations of their rights. But that is how they, in fact, exist. Fascism hacks democratic institutions, hacks liberalism, and turns its own institutions against itself.
And that's where I would say that Trump is just a natural born fascist in a way, because he hacked the shit out of us. Whether he believes anything or not, I mean, like, he just completely took over everything for 4 years. I mean,
if fascist speech is the thing that deplatforming is attempting to make less prominent, or attempt to stop the spread of the sort of annihilating effects of white supremacist ideology, which is like a thought virus or whatever that feeds on the pleasure of hate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those mechanisms, deplatforming, I don't think is going to do it. It's not a. It's not
I agree. But it's hard to say to large, and this is clearly large companies censoring these communities and not so much the government. But it's hard to know how to navigate that, especially considering that these these large companies have become such public utilities essentially. So like they're trying to cover their own ass and not be nationalized. So, but yes, I think that they're making their own choice, and I think they probably shouldn't, because it's not achieving their ultimate goal. But it is what it is. That's where I'm at. Did you have a question?
Well, I was going to just ask your opinion on the difference between fascism here and the difference between fascism in Europe, because of the history that they have there. Just what do you think is the difference?
Well, the difference between far right movements in Western and Eastern Europe and Russia versus the American far right, I think they have a different sort of flavor primarily. Their goals are more or less the same, ultimately, which is to destroy the globalist Jew. But the American situation, this in Baduian terms, the sort of state of the situation of the ideology of the American far right, it definitely is. It's local. It's to our own concerns here, which are that, I don't know how many like fascist and far right meme pages you follow, but I follow.
No.
Yeah, probably not. For me, I'm probably half of the ones you do, but I do. Believe me, I tried to make a parlor recently, and it just wouldn't let me. It was just glitched out. But like I was this is where I'm gonna find a bunch of panelists, and like I'm gonna troll like that, and But,
no, you got too much brown beard, I think. I think
you fit to the profile way too much.
Yeah, no, that's what makes me a uniquely good troll for something like that. So would you describe yourself as a leader of a church?
Me? Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm.
So I wanted to discuss before we let you go, like how was that in quarantine? Did you hold services? Did you create a support structure for your congregants? What is being a faith community when it comes to Satanism?
Well, Satanhaus always had a familial structure, and that's part of the vetting process that aspirants to the coven. We sort of have a vetting period where you're just an aspirant, and um, we always have been looking out for each other, very well connected, continuously talking every day, basically. Um, During the worst part of the apocalypse, the high priestess and I would get together. Jenny, Jenny, the high priestess, and I, we would get together for to mark the pagan and satanic holidays. We marked Epicesimus Michael Aquino from the Temple of Set's death. We held a ritual for that. We had a beautiful blasphemous Easter magical rite, just Jenny and I. We did a couple of Zoom rituals, but everybody was pretty much dissatisfied with them. I mean, not with the material, it's just Zoom or teleconferencing a satanic ritual just doesn't quite have the gravitas and the ambiance that being here in the Novi Temple of Satan really gives. And so, but no, that's my family. I'm and it's I'm there's I think 10 people in Satanhaus that are initiated people, and we're in constant contact. That's the people we see. During the apocalypse, the only people I saw at all for the majority of it was the high priestess, Jenny, and the mobile members of Satanhaus, and who would come to the temple for a weekend or whatever. But even that was rare. But those are the people who got me through. We get each other through.
So we were talking, like I said, about doing a conspiracy theories episode, and I had somebody that I used to know as like somewhat milk toast liberal person, but like now is deep into QAnon and posts things all the time, has her own YouTube channel on it, who just never got back to my questionnaire, saying that they're like the issues are too complicated or whatever. And in general, it's just like, that's why we decided to do the news segment. So we could just, when we have a panelist, we could just bring them on, just talk to them, see what they would want out of a future conversation. So given that that's probably maybe a dead end, or maybe I'll hit her up again or whatever. What sort of person would you want to talk to in a conspiracy theories episode? And in general, would you say that you advocate for or are a believer in any conspiracy theories?
Well, I know a guy maybe out of San Francisco who I already have a trolley rapport with, and he might be interesting to talk to.
Oh, great.
But do I believe in any conspiracy theories? I'm fundamentally disinclined towards conspiracy theories, and I'll tell you why. Most conspiracy theories suffer from the same two defects, that they reduce an incredibly complicated situation into a very simplistic one. And then whoever the locus of the conspiratorial thinking is, they attribute near omnipotence to them. So for an example, you have the COVID-19
the pandemic.
Right. So you have an unknowable, really, an incredibly broad, catastrophic and chaotic system that, people, epidemiologists and whatever, have studied their entire lives. And it behaves in a complex fashion. The crisis is complex. And so it simplifies. It says Bill Gates in cahoots with the reptilian Jew and the satanic vampires in the CDC, and Bill Gates or Hillary Clinton and George Soros, they're behind it. And then they're basically omnipotent. Do I believe in any conspiracy theories? I don't know. I like Oswald for killing Kennedy.
Go with the classics. I like it.
I like,
You were on
I like
Oswald's
Conrad
side,
Oswald.
but you think it was just Oswald? I mean, come on. That one, I think it's a little fishy.
One less handsome imperialist, shot by a good
Sure, but
communist.
I just don't think it. I just don't think it was just Oswald, honestly. But
I think that,
that's okay. So this will be my last question to you, actually, because a lot of people are saying, look, in the pandemic, the culprit is is China and the Chinese Communist Party, and you describe yourself as a communist, as a tanky. So do countries like North Korea, and China with, the horrible human rights abuses with the Uyghur Muslims and stuff. I know you've been somewhat an apologist for Stalin on our podcast before, which I've tried to push back on, but or others have it. But would you say that how comfortable are you with communist countries right now in the world? That's the last one I'll ask you, but
I don't know. I, to be honest, have not followed the Uyghur situation too closely. I know that I've watched a handful of reports from Chinese news agencies, which are, of course, propagandistic, but they describe them as re-education centers, where if you are proactive about getting out and learning Han Chinese or what's the language? Is it Mandarin? If you learn the language,
there are like five, but Mandarin is one. Yes.
Yeah, you're likely to sort of graduate out. I don't know. Surely, if there's gulags filled with Muslims in China, you're going to have some horrible policies and some Stanford prison experiment. So that's just a sort of given for human beings, I think. I just don't think that, that whatever. I don't know enough about the Uyghur situation to comment exactly, but I do know
there's a pretty good Vice story on it where they went there. So I'll try to send that to you. But go on, sorry.
I do know that the United States has no moral grounds to pitch a pitch.
Sure.
It's like it's absolutely pot calling the kettle black. We've got concentration camps here. We've got concentration camps.
Did you see the new Adam Curtis documentary? Sorry to interrupt. Did you see the new Adam Curtis documentary? Can't Get You Out of My Head.
I have not. No.
It's very good.
Crime shows.
Right. But they talk about that when we were handing over, I believe it was Taiwan from that to them, or like exiting or whatever, or the British were rather. It was the British. They were demanding that they have democracy there on the part of the Chinese, and the Chinese thought it was completely absurd because the British had never allowed democracy there in the entire time they'd been there. So I can see your point in terms of imperialists and ourselves don't have. We are imperialists after a fashion, but do not have the moral authority. But it seems like they don't either at this point. So that might be a wash. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm saying that it's probably bad, but I'm not sure. That I don't know many people who can speak with any authority on that situation because information coming out of China. I've been there twice. I've been 10,000 miles over China and all the major cities basically, and stayed in 5-star hotels in China and stuff like that.
Nice.
No, it's unsurprising to me that Westerners have a sort of deep suspicion of the Chinese. We always have. The yellow peril is alive and well here, as I'm sure you've seen all the increased hate crime attacks against Asian women in particular.
We led with the Atlanta shooting. Yeah, that's really awful. But yeah,
we fear the Chinese here, and so if there's any possible nefarious thing we can impute to them, we will. And so I don't know. Would I want to live in China under the Black Mirror-esque surveillance state with the possibility of going to a gulag for smoking pot? Probably not. But would I want to live in America where jerk-offs with no masks are purposely spreading disease for their liberty or whatever? There's problems everywhere.
Yeah, no, I hear you. At some point, I'd like you to regale us with your travels in China. That sounds like a rabbit hole for another podcast. But we appreciate you coming on, man. Good to see you again. Good to good talk with you again. And let's get in contact with that person that you were saying out in. You said they were out in Cali.
In Frisco.
Frisco. Cool.
Well, thank you for having me again. And, I'd like to be friendly with the SPAR program. And anytime you'd like to have me back to comment or whatever, I'd be more than happy. So,
yeah, for sure. You make a great co-host as well. All right. Okay. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you. Like and subscribe, please. And we'll keep on improving everything. Next week, I believe we're moving to recording this on Tuesdays, so it will be a Wednesday release. So that's the only thing updated right now, besides the constant technology. We'll see how it sounds after this. But yeah, thank you.
Try to make things work and gain something